The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. And today we are again going to be discussing critical issues in the news. How about this, unless you want to talk about something else, we talk about the Senate voting through this bill. It's pretty horrifying to me, at least, that to see someone like Lisa Murkowski saying, well, this isn't ready for the president's desk, and this is a work in progress, and this and that, and it's so on and so forth, after she's voted to move it forward. I mean, if she thought it was that terrible, then it was her duty as a senator to vote no. I just...
Yeah, Brooke,
please, go right ahead.
You know, I of course I agree with you, and it's baffling that somebody who's been around as long as Murkowski could vote yes and then immediately turn around and say, I think the bill is disgusting and we shouldn't have it, or, you know, and hopefully the House will do their jobs because I couldn't do mine. Like, it's just off the wall stuff. And what is in this bill, the hidden stuff is probably the worst stuff, right? You know, the stuff that we're not talking about, because it's the overfunding of ICE that is truly scary. It is the you know, it's not tax on tips that's scary, right? And then let's be clear, the tax on tips expires after 3 years, so that is not. And this whole thing is really because Trump expected to win in 2020, and that he would be outgoing, he would have gone, but by now if he had, instead of being back, and some other president would have had to deal with this, right? They made those tax cuts temporary to coincide with the next president, and so he was basically screwing the next president, but now he's gotten screwed by himself because of the 4 years of Joe Biden, and he needs this bill, I suppose, because he wants to replace taxes with tariffs. And he needs a tax cut to try to justify that. Well, yes, we're raising prices on everything because of tariffs, but look at the great tax cut that you got. You have the money to pay for it. It's not costing you anything. And then, of course, the old time-worn Republican lie of, but think of how much the growth will be. And GDP will grow so much that every busboy in America will be a millionaire, and we'll all be like swaddled in prosperity, and all we need to do is cut taxes on the richest people on the planet, and that is what will follow. And it's never done that. You know, that the Laffer curve was drawn on a napkin, you know, and our public policy has been based on that napkin ever since. So a lot of the stuff that frightens me that's in this bill is hidden stuff. Again, the parliamentarian may have stripped some of it out. I'm not sure whether the Senate was able to put it back in or not, but it was things like the courts can't hold government officials in contempt. That's downright scary, you know? I mean, I know a couple of judges. My cousin's a judge. One of my best friends is a judge. My father was a judge. Contempt of court is a powerful tool to get people to do what the court decides that they must do. And to lose that power would mean that, you know, government officials like Peter Navarro can stonewall without, you know, thumb his nose at the law without any kind of consequences, right? So we had Bannon went to prison for contempt of court. We had Navarro went to prison for contempt of court. If you can't hold government officials who are willing to do illegal things in contempt of court, the court has lost its juice. It doesn't have any kind of power anymore, right? as somebody once says, okay, the court has made its decision, now let it enforce them. They will not be able to do that. So those are the things that are in there that really frighten me. And some of the pain, I think, doesn't frighten me so much, and this is a little bit of schadenfreude on my part, because it hurts the people who voted for it more than it hurts us. The three of us, oh, I don't know, Mark's not in a blue state, sorry. But the three of us grew up in blue states and have blue state mentalities, and blue states will be okay. Not great, but okay. Red states will be hurting. And that makes me feel good about it.
One thing that I do want to point out is that none of the Republicans seem to be worried about their constituents.
Because they'll get over it.
I did hear that the city of Miami, Florida, the Republicans have canceled this year's elections. Their elections are normally in an off year. They have decided that now their elections are going to be the same year as, even years. And that this year there are not going to be any elections. And the voters are all upset, but they don't care about what the voters say. And of course, that just very conveniently leaves the status quo with Republicans in charge of city of Miami government. And I am not sure what else in that area, but little red flare of the potential for the same type of practice, including in 2026, of Trump simply saying, well, we're not holding elections, we're going to leave the present legislature where it is. Or if you hold elections, we're not going to count them.
It does look like a test case. Miami-Dade's canceling the elections for a year, postponing the elections for a year, really does look like a test case to see how people will react to it.
I guess my big take on this, the thing that disturbs me the most, is that I agree with Chip Roy. I never thought that would ever happen. Sort of like, when I agree with Ted Cruz about, the idea of term limits. I hate it when these people that I loathe so much can actually come up with something that I'd say, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I hate to give them the credit. And Scott's right. This will probably hurt red states more. Now, red state seniors probably depends. I guess it all depends on your income level. As Scott says, I don't see this impacting me much at all. Matter of fact, I saw that there's a tax break for seniors. Yay, us seniors. So, I'm kind of happy about that. I am sad to see that if you are hungry and don't make a lot of money, that the assistance that you may need is not going to be there. That really does bother me. As far as Medicaid is concerned, again, not something that me personally is worried about, because I don't think we qualified for Medicaid anyway. Heck, I'm still trying to get to 65 to make it to Medicare at this point in time. I'm just hoping to make it there. But again, I don't see this impacting me and my family very much at all. There's a lot of programs there, and it isn't just about me. It isn't just about my family. And I think that's something that absolutely we here in the United States, it's now a me. I don't care about everybody else. We used to be a society that helped each other. We used to be a society that stood up for each other. We used to be a society that looked and understood that social good, that when everybody benefits from society, even I benefit from society. Whenever somebody is marginalized in society, I myself am marginalized. Every time somebody is not included, and every time somebody is not treated fairly in my system, the government that I live in, I'm degraded by that as well. I mean, that used to be the attitude, and that attitude seems to have gone. Now it goes to the House of Representatives. And again, as I said right from the beginning when I started this, I find myself on the side of Chip Roy. May the Lord have mercy on my soul. But that Freedom Caucus, who I absolutely loathe, I cannot find more than one or two things that they make any sense to me at all. That Freedom Caucus is making sense. They're concerned about the deficit. And it is about time we got concerned about the deficit. I'm socially liberal, but I'm policy conservative. And yeah, I firmly believe that we have to pay attention. We should be conservative in these kind of cases.
Right. Well, of course, Chip Roy and some of the others on the Freedom Caucus, or the whatever they want to call it, the fiscally responsible people like Massey, who doesn't believe in government at all, and talk about a guy who's uniquely a unique human being who has really no need for anybody but himself. Lives in a way that he funds his house, he heats his house, he has his own water, he is completely self-sufficient, and thinks that everybody else should be that way. But let's keep in mind that this bill isn't cruel enough for them, although they may just deal with it the way it is. I imagine that will happen. But their stance, Mark, is that it's not mean enough to people. It's not cutting to the bone enough, and really should be a more harsh bill than what it is. And how dare we increase the deficit and put more debt on, when all we really need to do is stop providing any kind of government services for people at all and have everybody fend for themselves. Well, we'll see how that works out. I mean, I think there's a place called Somalia that has tried that, and it doesn't always work out well for the people there, but it is a model, and it is a model of governance.
Yeah, and okay, and in all fairness, again, I say I agree with Chip Roy in the principle of being against the bill. I know what he says is his reason, because of the deficit. And I choose to just leave it at that.
So you're
right. You're probably right. It isn't as Dr. Evil as Chip Roy wants it to be. But I choose to say, okay, as long as you're opposing something that I want you to oppose, I guess whatever your motivations are for doing it, I guess I'll just live with it, and I'll be okay with it. Because your motivations may say it's not evil enough, it's not punishing enough, but the fact is that this in its state right now is massively punishing. Kick them while they're down. That's very possible.
I mean, so let me ask you a question. So, let's say if you agree with Chip Roy on this, should wealthier people pay more in taxes, or is that something that we just couldn't tolerate? I mean, after all, they earn every penny they get, and it's their money. So why shouldn't they be able to keep it?
No, I don't agree with that. No, you know that.
I mean, it reminds me of, there's a Monty Python sketch in the movie Meaning of Life where the British Army is fighting in Africa, in the Sudan, I guess, and one of the officers has lost a leg. Right. Yeah. And they're all all the officers are standing around talking about the missing leg, and how the mosquito netting didn't deter what turned out to be a tiger of all things coming in. The absurdity is lashed on and on and on. But one of the soldiers comes in and says, "Sir, I think we've managed to beat them back. And there were quite a lot of casualties." And he goes, "Yes, but one of the officers has been hurt." And he goes, "Oh, yes, sir." It's like one officer is worth 1,000 men. So we can't be bothered with 1,000 men. We've got to tend to this officer's wounds first. And they take that as, yes, that makes perfect sense to them. That's kind of where we are in this country right now. We cannot ask billionaires to pay more than they do, because they're billionaires. They are the best, and they are the job creators, and they are the elite, or you might even say the elect in the Protestant term, who deserve what they get because God has graced them with it. And how dare we mere mortals try to take any of that away, which God has bestowed upon them. And that's kind of where we are right now. And I find it frankly bizarre and disturbing. And that's where Chip Roy is. And that's where a whole bunch of these other yahoos down in the House and even the Senate are when it comes to taxation and the super wealthy and the what was it, $60 million wedding in Venice, um, at a time when people are living paycheck to paycheck and unable to get the basic things that they need to have their children survive. And but you know what? Jeff Bezos is the elect. God has bestowed this great gift upon him, and who the hell are we to take it away?
Well, the other thing that troubles me a lot is you look at the aging population of this country, and the very high. Apparently, the baby boomer generation is the highest among the suicide rate of any age cohort in this country, taking over from teenagers. Although it may not be true of trans people, I think they probably have the highest suicide rate for their for the amount of per capita, and the increasing homelessness.
Yeah,
And
I guess my big question about this big beautiful bill is they say that we don't talk about it very much, and it's very true because we really don't understand it. I don't think anybody does understand it. How much growth this bill will give the American economy, and so far they just say the word growth, and people go, okay, but nobody can explain exactly how this growth is going to happen. So,
right. We've heard this before, right? I mean, we've been hearing this. George W. Bush was supposed to get 5% economic growth, according to the two yahoos that that touted his economic viewpoint, Stephen Moore and Lawrence Kudlow. They didn't come close, but they actually wrote a book about it. They had the nerve to publish a book about this. The forecast from the Yale budget lab is that that this bill is the House version of the bill would have shrunk GDP by 2%.
Yep.
That's a massive amount of money. Massive amount of money. The Senate bill is even worse.
Yep.
And debt is going to be a higher percentage of GDP. There's not going to be any growth. We're already seeing it. Microsoft just announced 9,000 layoffs today. The ADP jobless report came out today. The government's one comes out on Friday. But they've lost 33,000 more jobs than they expected to. We're seeing the economy collapse in front of our eyes like a slow motion house of cards, and the House and the Senate just blithely go on ahead and do what they're doing, not expecting any kind of consequences from it. It's not within my understanding at all why anybody would want this. But
and let's remember, you go back to Bush. I'll go back one little farther because I'm a little older, not much, but a little. I'll go back to Reaganomics, trickle down economy. That if you let rich people keep more money, they're going to give it back into hiring people and spending more of it. And the idea that they're going to be altruistic about it and going to put it back into the society that has afforded them the opportunity to be successful as they are. And I'm not going to take it away from them that they were successful. They were successful, granted. And I'm not saying that they should send me a check for $10 million, because I live here in the country. I'm saying, yes, you should pay to enrich the society from which you have benefited from. Not the individual me or Scott or Brooke, but instead the society, which gave you that opportunity. Because without that society, without this nation, you would be probably picking potatoes in Ireland. And that would be my final comment on that.
And I'm going to fast forward a little bit to Mitt Romney in 2012, was it, I guess, for that election where, Mitt got his money the old fashioned way from his dad, and Mitt's children are going to have that money because Mitt didn't plow that money back into the economy. Mitt kept that money and he sequestered it and he put it in foreign banks where it couldn't be got at. And that's the reality more of trickle down economics, and why it doesn't trickle down is because they have the means to take that money and hide it away, squirrel it away where nobody can get at it until their kids need it or their grandchildren need it at some point or another, and they sell some stocks to fund whatever it is that they want to buy at that particular point, and these financial transactions are not taxed and so on and so forth. So, the idea of voodoo economics is dead and has become zombie economics because it rises from the dead. It popped up again. Here we are, 2025, and we're talking about creating growth by cutting taxes on the wealthiest and cutting services that are needed by the poorest. Wow. I mean, we'll just never learn. And the period of time that Trump likes to talk about was tariffs and so on and so forth. Was the what was it called? The glittering age of the 1890s. Mark, in a earlier podcast, you had mentioned Teddy Roosevelt and the Russo-Japanese War. Here's an interesting tidbit that I almost hate bringing up. Those two, the Russians and the Japanese, were brought to the table to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, to negotiate the end of that deal because one banker in New York City named Jacob Schiff had funded the war for both sides. And thanks to Teddy Roosevelt, was now saying to each side, I am not going to give you any more money to fight this war. And because of that, two things happened. One, the war ended. Teddy Roosevelt was able to end the war. Two, the story of Jews controlling the world's finances became even more popular in the form of Jacob Schiff. But I will point out, we were talking earlier about American colonialism and imperialism, that Andrew Carnegie, not Jewish, Scottish gentleman, not Jewish, offered to pay the U.S. government, I think it was $20 million or something like that, to let the Philippines go. Didn't happen. We didn't let the Philippines go until after World War II, but he made them that offer at that time. That's how wealthy some of these people are or were and are right now. I mean, I guess if Jeff Bezos didn't feel like spending the money on a wedding in Venice, he could use that money to stop the war in Gaza or to prevent Russia from hammering Ukraine with missiles and things like that. But it's not a healthy society that lives like this, and that's kind of where we're headed. And somebody pointed out, just to get on my soapbox about Medicaid, that it's not just Medicaid that gets affected by this, because we go back to the situation that Obamacare was supposed to fix and may have fixed temporarily, which is that when people don't have medical benefits, they still get medical attention, but the insurance companies are forced to pick up that tab, and they pass that pain along to their customers. And so we're back to the situation that we were at before Obamacare, and we're setting ourselves back in so many different ways. It's just, as I said before, baffling.
I agree. I think we beat that one up.
We did. Yeah. We did. I want to thank both of you for your thoughts, and I want to thank all our listeners for spending some time with us, and we'd also like to thank all our subscribers for your continued support, and we appreciate it. And if you are not a subscriber to the Nova Society on the platform of your choice, please do subscribe. And we will get back to listener emails, so please do keep those emails coming in, and we will see you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Science. The JCIS is an open journal for upcoming scholars. The JCIS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis. The JCIS is a publication of NovaWorks, a scholarly depository at Nova Southeastern University. A link to the journal is in our description.